Okay, so this study tip is about the grip. Okay, you may have seen a lot of other videos and read a lot of things about where to place the hands and how that can possibly change where the club face is looking. All right, so here's a couple of tips that I see and I look for when building your lead hand grip. Okay, so left hand for a right-handed golfer. It's much more important for me to get a natural grip rather than neutral. All right, so what I mean by that is I want to look at how players' hands sit, how your hands sit by your side, whether your hands sit more palm out or whether they sit more palm in, okay? Because how your body is naturally balanced is going to depend how your hands go on the club. So what I tend to do is get someone to stand there with their hands down by their side, put the club in the middle of their stance, and simply let the club just fall into their left hand, or lead hand, which is by their pocket. The club face will naturally open up as you do this. From there, without even looking, just try and get a feel for that club. All right, put your thumb down so it's on the opposite side of the shaft, and then when I bring my hand up, you can see I've built quite a natural looking, fairly neutral grip, but certainly neutral for me. Okay, now when it comes to how you link the hands together, I've got no preference to if you want to baseball it, interlock, or overlap. All three of those can work really nicely. Okay, personally for me, I tend to overlap because that's just where I feel more comfortable, and I've grown up playing that way. Okay, now one thing that I do see, and one of the big tips that I tend to give to players is with the trail hand. Okay, and the most important thing that I look for isn't so much about where the hand sits on the grip, it's where the grip goes in relation to the middle two fingers of the trail hand. All right, because if you get that club going nearer the palm, your fingers can wrap around the grip, and now as you swing, that puts a twist and a torque on the club, which you see is going to generally shut the club face down. Okay, if you're a player that has a weaker style grip, you'll tend to have very little contact with these middle two fingers because your hands are far over, and now you haven't got the ability to square the club face. Okay, so what I'd always look for is no matter where the hand sits, okay, I look for the player to open their hand up, leaving their fingers on the grip so I can see where that club sits. All right, because how many times have you seen someone come in with a grip that's stronger and they're fighting a strong grip, and all they're trying to do is wrestle that trail hand over to this kind of position where you see their knuckles going white because of how hard they're trying to wrap the hand over. And actually, even though the V can look up through the body or to the right shoulder, the club's really through their palm. All right, so it's really important for me that the club goes through the middle knuckle of those middle two fingers, okay? Because then from there, I don't mind where the hand naturally wants to sit. It's those middle two fingers for me that tend to put a twist or a torque on that club, which can then shut or potentially open the club face. All right, now that's kind of a little bit of an idea about how the hands are going to be placed on the grip. But let's talk about the grip themselves. All right. Now, I heard a really good saying and a good thought from Golf Pride a little while ago saying how we have to think about the grip as being equipment too, which I really agree with, okay? So the feeling of the grip, the texture of the grip. A harder grip will tend to be more harsh and you get more feedback from exactly what's kind of going on. A softer grip, okay, can be softer in the hands, but potentially have more play for a bit more torque in the club because it's a little bit squidgier, a little bit softer, and there's more play in the grip because it's softer. All right. Other things, like you'll see here, I use an aligned grip. Okay. Now the reason for that is where I spoke about building the grip and where the club sits. A lot of it can be down to kind of the size of your hands. For me, I've got quite big hands. I've got long fingers, but I've got very long palms. So when I try and build my right hand grip, I can put my grip in the fingers, like I've just spoken about. But now, because my palm is very long, when I try and get that palm to interact with the grip, I struggle. So to get my palm on the club and get my palm in a position where I've got contact, you'll see where the club sits in my hand. Okay, so that's a more neutral grip, palms in a neutral position. But then if I look at that, where the club sits in my hand, it's easy for me to get into a strong tendency and to lose the shot left because I've torqued the club and twisted it left. So I use the align at the back of the grip to set that in my hands and in my fingers better. I got a good feel and a reference point for where that is. So now when my hand does naturally, because of the length of the palm, sit down into the grip more, I can make sure that I'm keeping that club in the right part of my fingers rather than letting it get too underneath. Okay, so again, ways you can look around that would be potentially using thicker grips. I use a standard grip, but it has 5 layers of tape underneath, and it's a +4. So I'm using the technology in the +4 of the grip. I'm using the technology in the Align, the corded versus rubber technology in the grip, okay, to help me. It's there to help, okay? Like we said, it's equipment too, all right? Another thing to note about grips, how many times have you, either yourself or heard players struggle with maybe their hands, a bit of arthritis in their hands, and go from a standard grip to a much fatter, thicker jumbo grip? The thing to remember is, bigger grip, okay, means more material to pad it out. More material is going to mean more weight. So the swing weight of your club is going to change if you change the grip. As little as a £20 note on one end can change the balance point. So if I now add a standard grip here, this particular grip is 52 grams, or if I go to a jumbo that's maybe 68 or 70, okay, I'm adding potentially 18 grams worth of weight this end, which is going to completely change the balance point of the club. Okay, now all these things are something to think about. So ways to get your hands more natural rather than neutral. Really important part to the trail hand grip and getting it sitting in those middle 2 fingers in the correct place. And also using a technology in the grip to help you build a repeatable grip that you can do time over time to get yourself in the same position so that you're interacting with that club the same all the time. If you want more information on what I spoke about with the grip, how it can upset swing weight, okay, look into the guys at Precision Golf. I'll put a link in the description below, okay, to their site and to their YouTube channel. Some fantastic content there about the actual build of the club, because you may find the build of the club can help you, or potentially the build of the club that you've got is hindering you. All right. So as always, hope this helps. Follow myself on Skillist, YouTube. We've got a bit more coming to my YouTube channel, which is here, okay, and my Instagram at Toddy Adcock. All right. Any questions or any advice you want, or if I can help you in any way, or any videos you'd like me to cover, feel free to DM me, send me a message, and I'll try and get to them. All right. As I say, I hope that helps, and enjoy your golf.